Hi, it's Kane Hodder, Jason from Friday the 13th. You're watching Slash and Cast. Keep watching, or I'll kill you and your whole family.
What's going on, horror fans? Welcome to another episode of Slash and Cast. My name is Riley, that's Nick, and joining us today is a very special guest. You may know him as Jason from Friday the 13th, Part 6. He's also in Highway to Hell, has done a little bit of stunt work. His name is CJ Graham. CJ, how are you doing?
Good. Appreciate you guys having me on, Riley and Nick. I really do.
You know, it's an absolute honor to have you on here. We've met you a couple times across conventions, and every time it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I believe we got a picture together a while back.
Yes, we did, and we're looking to get into that new photo op you got going around as well in Indianapolis.
You know, that's going to be amazing. In fact, I just had the full wardrobe created over the last couple, 3 months, working with about 6 different artists, special effects artists, and wardrobe artists. And we just did the first one this past weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, which was 30 years in the making, so to speak, because 30 years ago I wore the wardrobe in Covington, Georgia, about 35 miles outside Atlanta. So what a place to start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a hell of a turnout, right? You had a few hundred people do that?
Yeah, we had well over 150 people come in for photographs, and so successful. As a matter of fact, you're right. I'll be in Indianapolis, Days of the Dead again doing it. And I'll be in Monster Mania, New Jersey next month in March. And Dave reached out to me and said that he would wonder if I had time to do it with them. So I'll also be doing a full wardrobe at Monster Mania, New Jersey here about the middle of March.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is it something you plan on to keep on doing throughout, the rest of your convention career?
You know what I'm going to do is, again, nobody's really done it too frequently. I think Kane has done it once, maybe twice.
Right.
With Part 7 wardrobe, which is much more complicated. The complexity of it is much more difficult because it's a full bodysuit. I'm pretty fortunate because myself and Richard and Ted White, Part 3, Part 4, Part 6, all came out of the same mold, so to speak. And being ex-military, I was able to, when I put all the equipment on 30 years ago, I knew exactly where it came from military surplus. So for me to find it 30 years later was pretty easy, but then I had the experts help me put it together to make sure it matched photos that I had from my personal photos behind the scenes, so that all 7 spear marks were on the chest. And the consistency from the movie, stepping 30 years out, was basically a replica from the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie.
Right. Yeah, speaking of which, you just mentioned that you are a veteran of the U.S. Army, and I wanted to thank you for your service. That's the first thing I wanted to say, but I instantly got into it, so.
That's okay. Yeah, I was in the United States Army. I was infantry ops back 1974 to 1978.
Now, you obviously have gone through, some hell of terrain and training because of that. Did that help you when you had to step into the role of Jason when it comes to stunt work? Because you obviously weren't a stuntman really before that. So did that help with the hardship you had to go through during that?
Yeah, actually, it going back to Michael Nomad, who was my stunt coordinator, being relatively fresh out of the military, maybe even a little bit today, you have a sense of cockiness. As a result of what you've accomplished, what you've done, being a grunt, being in the infantry, those type of operations require a little bit more than, my support brothers and sisters, which should do different type of radio comms and combat engineers and medics. But at the same time, you can't do it without a team, and everybody is just as valuable for the outcome. So I think it prepared me mentally, physically. I was prepared. I think at the same time, it did contribute to my capabilities of doing all the stunts that were required by Paramount Studios, Michael Nomad, Tom McLaughlin, the director.
Right. You have an extremely unique story when it comes to getting casted as Jason. Can you share how that went down?
Yeah, it is kind of the Cinderella concept, to be quite honest. I was in Los Angeles. I was the general manager of a nightclub, about a 15,000 square foot nightclub. And we had a hypnotist show on Thursdays, and the hypnotist was putting a promo video together for himself. And he went to a company called Real Effects, REEL Effects, right across from Paramount Studios. And they were going to do all the shooting for them, secondary director stuff that they had done with films. It just happens that they did the special effects for Part 4. And they always said, well, let's do something different with the hypnotist show, and let's do something scary with the Jason. And my big ass, they threw me in the wardrobe because they thought I had the right physique, and came through the screen. And the rest is history, as they say, because they asked me about, we're going to cast you. And at the time, I was one of those stories like, yeah, right, And believe it or not, they came back a few months later. I met with Frank Mancuso Jr., Paramount Studios, Tom McLaughlin, and originally I didn't get the part. We did have an incredible stuntman that took the part, but at the same time, he didn't have the physical presence on screen, apparently. When the first daily came back, it just didn't resonate what they were looking for. Friday, I get a call, and Monday, I'm on a plane to Covington, Georgia, and I assumed the role.
Yeah, it's just, that's just crazy. I wish I could get that lucky. That's amazing.
And that's it. You're right. Sometimes there's luck. There's talent. You're engaged. But you know what? Everything, again, looking at the complexity of having a team and people around you that got your six, it just works out that way. It's part of life, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's really a crazy story. It's very unique compared to other Jason roles. Now, you were approached to do 7, at least at first, right?
Actually, Kane will tell you the same story. Kane and I are very good friends and very supportive of each other because we in some regards are brothers from another mother, so to speak. But I was scheduled up for 7. I was teed up, ready to go. They were very satisfied, and Kane will tell you the same thing with Part 6 and put me back into the wardrobe. The director, was okay with it. That was coming on for Part 7, however. He was good friends and worked on several occasions with Kane, and Kane was interested in the part. And Kane will tell you he approached him and was very forthcoming. He'd like to do the part, and the director has the ultimate decision-making, opted to go with Kane out of respect for their work together and felt confident with what Kane could deliver since they did have a working history. So Kane was blessed to pick up Part 7, 8, 9, and 10. I do have the luxury of being in the prologue, so I do get credits of Part 7.
That's true.
Reflecting back to Part 6.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's obvious you guys are all really great friends. You see panels with you, Steve, and Kane, and it's always a good time. You guys are always very friendly with each other. That's clear. So I'm glad there's no bad blood
Steve,
there.
Exactly. Well, when Steve and Kane and I get together, it's like the Three Stooges up there,
Yeah, it was very similar to that. Yeah, when we went, you guys, everyone always bullies Kane because Kane always shows up late, and then you guys call him out on it. It's always, I've seen several of you guys' panels. It's always a good time.
Well, Kane, that's his MO. If the show starts at 11, he'll be there at 12. If the panel starts at 12:30, he'll be there at 12:40. He likes to make an entrance, so you got to give it to him. He's an artist. You got to let him go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, how is it seeing your Jason portrayed by someone else in the video game? Of course, it's not you, but it is you. It's definitely your figure, clearly.
Well, I take it as a compliment because Kane will tell you we have a little bit different in our physiques. Not extremely, but a little bit. And Kane will tell you again in any time he interviews that he was pleased from what he saw with my character, how I represented Jason. And in some cases, the emulation of the game is a lot of me, which I take as a compliment that, most people know the story. It wasn't that I wasn't ready to go to Part 7. It wasn't that I couldn't do Part 7. But, sometimes it happens where the selection changes. So for them to resonate back to the iconic Jason, which would be the 80s Jason that I participated in, that's a pretty big honor. And not to mention, 30 years later, and here you and I and Nick are having the podcast talking about, hey, Jason, Friday the 13th. Go figure, right?
Yeah, it is really it's crazy to see even though it's Kane's figure, obviously, like taking that role, it is still crazy to see all of you guys being portrayed on screen at the same time. And it's got to be really cool that, your character was honored and was able to be in the game.
Right. And, there's an opportunity coming around the corner of the reboot, and I don't know exactly what's going on with it. I don't know who has received the part or not. I do take it respectful that, the iconic image that the franchise has created over the past 35 or so years will be continued on with whoever the selection is. And that I think the Jasons will, support whoever it is, because we are a franchise of a very small brotherhood, yet we are an iconic horror image that is worldwide known. And that's pretty cool to be part of that small selective group.
Yeah, it's very cool to see all you guys at conventions and whatnot. Now, you brought up Friday the 13th. It's called Part 13 now, but it was recently just canceled as of Monday. Before that, were you approached at all?
No, and I heard that it had been, we don't really use the word canceled as much as it's been put on hold or put on the shelf. I heard through probably the same entities as you that the spend is going to be quite a bit compared to the earlier sessions, and they want to make sure that they get a return on that. But I think, location, and distribution are very important. There is a Friday the 13th coming up in October 2017. If you're going to launch a Friday the 13th campaign, that's the date for it to hit a distribution. But I was not approached. But you know what? I'll tell you right now, for everybody out there, I'm putting my hat in the arena because, I'm a gladiator. If they come back to me, I'm going to take them down. But I've never been in the market. I am getting ready to hang up my suit and tie as of the 15th of February. My chief operating officer position of 2 casino resorts in the Coachella Valley, Palm Springs, and Rancho Mirage. I do have a Screen Actors Guild card. So, casting director, Mrs. Fields, if you're out there, CJ Graham, go ahead and get a hold of these guys. I'll give you my phone number.
It's I would my wish when we were discussing it in general was to have somebody that's been in the mask before do it again. As great as it is, Derek Mears coming in for the remake, he did fantastic, but I think it would bring in more fans if someone else were to reprise it. Now, whether that's you, whether that's Kane, whether that's Derek, all those are fine to me. I just want to see someone that's done it before do it again.
Right, and I agree. I think Derek did a great job. I think Ken did fine. I think everybody's done their part. But again, you know what? If the casting director, Mrs. Fields, called me tomorrow, I'd be down there, and again, I'd come in full wardrobe so they can get a visual of what I would represent on screen rather than just walking in physically. But I would like to have 5 minutes with the director, because my twist, my sale of the next Friday the 13th is I don't care who you pick at the end of the day. It's your movie. I respect that. I know they'll do outstanding, whoever it is. But let's just say Mr. X gets Jason. I would like to have all the Jasons that are still with us have cameos without the mask. Like, for instance, I'll use myself as an example. I end up being a bus driver at the camp, and the new regiming Jason kills each one of us. And the twist to me is that everybody who's been following us for 35 plus years get to see the men behind the mask be totally executed by the new champion, so to speak, Jason, whoever it is, for the new outcoming reboot.
It's crazy that you mentioned that, because literally like 10 minutes before you called us, we were like, wouldn't it be crazy if a new Jason took the role and all the other Jasons got killed by him? So that, it's a really cool idea, and fans would buy in like crazy. And, Paramount canceled, we'll put it on hold for this year because Rings ultimately failed in the box office. But you can grab an audience easily and make your money back, especially with a slasher film like Friday the 13th. So I agree. That would be great to see it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've said that for a couple years. Behind the scenes, I've told Kane that, and a few other people I've talked to. I think what's going to be the selling piece of Marketeer is the fact that it's iconic. So it's not a Rings. I think at the other point that regardless if you pick Mr. X to do it, I think the cameo of all the guys doing bits and parts, being a police officer, being a road worker, whatever the case may be, not necessarily camp counselors, we're too old, obviously, but for people that have seen the movie since the 80s, they're going to, you know what, they're going to want to see the real men behind the mask, and they're going to see the new, champion. And I think that's going to set them for us for the next series or the next generation of the Friday the 13th fans.
They discussed that for the plot of Friday the 13th Part 13, that it was going to be an origin story, or at least include an origin story of Jason as a little kid, including his father. Now, how did you feel about that?
I think, I've heard that. They talked about that. And I think there's an opportunity to put a spin on it. But I think what you're doing is you're truly rebooting the series to rewrite history and go forward with another phase. I mean, how many times have you seen a Godzilla movie or a Frankenstein movie, or a werewolf movie? Once you set the stage and reboot it, rewrite it, you can start it all over again. The series has a B12 shot or a blood transfusion, no pun intended. And I think it's going to resonate well with the fans. I hope going back too far, I think would be a mistake personally. But again, I'm not the writer or director, and I'm sure they know what they're doing. But I think you got to enter into the arena right about the time they start really making a sales pitch and people start resonating with the character. Otherwise, I think you're going to confuse the new audience. You already own the audience from Ari when he was just a kid, and you own it from Part 2 and Part 3. But Part 3, to be fair, where Richard took over the role, that's when you came into his own as being Jason, the homicidal killer. And Part 6, ironically, is when they brought him back like Frankenstein, and now he became, you could not stop him. He wasn't dead, but he wasn't alive. But that's when he became a powerful figure that just went through the wall, and you couldn't stop him as strong as Superman,
Yeah.
So you said just recently that you're willing to hang up the hat and the coat, come back. Would you ever consider doing reprising Jason for like a fan film?
Yeah, what I'd like to do is, since I do have an SAG card, I'd like to go ahead and see if I can get some more time on the camera. Whatever. I'll never be a principal actor from a Tom Cruise or a Sylvester Stallone. They're normal-sized people, 5'11", 5'10". I'm 6'3", 250. I'm always going to have to be a bad person, a bodyguard, a towering person over somebody, or, wearing some type of prosthetics, latex, disabled, or unhuman figure, which I'm okay with. But I'd like to get a little more time in front of the camera and see what other opportunities I could and just enjoy it. The nice thing about it is, does lightning strike twice? Again, no pun intended to Jason, but if lightning struck twice and I was able to do reprise or do other things, that would be kind of fun. I wasn't looking for stardom the first time. I'm still not looking for stardom. I'm just looking to have a good time and be productive.
Yeah, I mean, we'd all love to see you behind the mask again, that's for sure. But, your life after Jason is just as interesting as your, life as Jason. Can you actually talk about, your life as, as the spa resort and the casinos?
Yeah, it's interesting because, when I got out of the military in 1978, I went into the casino industry, and I went into just selling change and slot department, went into security, became a dealer, went to be a pit boss and all those things. Then I took off and went to L.A. While I was in L.A., you probably may or may not know, I worked for Chippendales in Culver City. Yes, I wore cuffs and collars, spandex pants. And then during that time, I took over the nightclub as the general manager at Chippendales, and then I took over the general manager position out in Bandstand, and of course, the Jason. When I was done with the Jasons in 1991, again, I knew my size of my character would not resonate well with normal-sized actors. They don't want somebody bigger than them on the screen. I get it. I went back to Las Vegas and went back in the casino industry and worked my way up. And about 1998, 99, I was the general manager of a riverboat, Jumers, in Quad Cities, which you may know where that's at.
Yeah.
About 160 miles south of Chicago. There's Quad Cities there, and I was the vice president, general manager of Jumers Casino Rock Island.
Man.
So then I just maintained executive positions. I worked for Caesars. I worked for Steve Wynn. I worked for George Maluk at the Palms as a vice president. And then Thunder Valley, Northern California as a general manager. And I came down here for the last 4 years as a chief operating officer over 2 different casino resorts. I have about 2,200 employees. So, I mean, I've had a very unique, colorful career. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're doing just fine. I think it's cool that you were so successful, after Jason, and before and after Jason, you've had a tremendous career. And it's, it's exciting to see, that come to an end and see where your acting career goes as well. Now, you've said several times that, you're a big guy. You probably have to be behind Mako for the most part, but do you think that you have the abilities to become like, an on-screen actor, kind of how Kane is trying to do now?
Yeah, I mean, Kane and I, again, we have different sizes and stuff, and he's done quite a bit of film work. He's very successful on both sides of the camera. My goal isn't to get an Oscar necessarily. It's not that I'm going to get an Emmy. My goal is to have some fun, and you know what? If there's opportunities that I can step out, be successful as, a sidekick or part of a series or something, I think it would be fun. I think the benefit I bring to the front of the camera is I'm not starving. So I'm going to go out there with clear conscience, clear mind, and a vision of enjoying what I'm doing, and I think it's going to resonate back to the camera and the fans, whatever I do. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're clearly extremely interested in the industry itself. If you could have any role in any film ever, whether that's the film has happened or something from the past, what would it be and why?
Well, I think if I had an opportunity, I think the most exciting would be to resurrect the Jason that I created in 1986. As you have probably seen the full wardrobe photos that we put together from the Atlanta, Georgia show, I was quite surprised myself. It felt like when you looked at it, I had actually just stepped right off the screen from 1986. So I think the character I can resurrect well. I think it has enough following from, again, Richard, Ted White, myself, and Kane, and Derek that to walk right into the role and not miss a beat. It's kind of like getting on a horse, or getting on a bicycle. I think the way I look at it is there's only one gentleman in the world that's done it 4 times, Mr. Hodder. If Derek Mears was lucky to get it again, he'd be one of 2 that have done it twice. I think that's going to be a huge honor. And again, looking at longevity and legacy, to be able to do Jason once is huge. To do it twice, I mean, that's an accomplishment, the way I look at it, because that series is going to be around long after the 3 of us are gone and our listeners. So, you know what? I think that's something to put your name in history books. Yeah,
very true. Now, when it comes to genres, is there any other genre that you're really interested in, or is horror it for you?
No, I mean, I think anything that where I can be successful and contribute. I'm very much a team player. 43 years ago when I was in the military and I went into the infantry, you learned how to create leadership, and everybody within your platoon, you learned about watching your 6, watching your partner's 6, in other words, watching your back. I think it's the same thing today. If I can contribute and watch somebody else's back and watch people be successful, I've had 3 different people under my belt that have worked for me in the casino world that worked for me as vice presidents or executive directors, and they are now, 3 of them are senior vice president general managers of their own casino resorts. So I've hopefully passed on some knowledge to them, and they put together their experience, and now they have the success stories that I've had.
Yeah, it's really cool that you have the right mindset to help others out. Yeah, that's just crazy to me. To have a mindset like that, in the position you are, where you could take control if you wanted to over any set. It's cool that you're just out there to help other guys out.
Yeah, they call it karma. So one deed deserves another.
Yeah. Now
we have a. I'm not to interrupt you. We have a saying, in the industry. It's very clear. Don't forget where you came from, because the person below you one day could become your boss.
Yeah.
So when I'm out on the floor and I'm talking to the people that sell change or work at a booth or a cashier or a dishwasher, I've done all those jobs, so I've been there. I've scrubbed those toilets. So I respect their positions and admire what they're doing. And for those that want to grow, my goal, my job is to pave a path for them of success or contribute to their success if I can.
Yeah. Now, that's why horror conventions in general are great. You know, most people within that genre understand that the fans are what got them there. And, you know, you just add to that list. You're another one that really understands that, and that really means a lot to people like us. I mean, for the fact that you even accepted to doing an interview means a lot. So, I mean, it really just says a lot about your character.
No, I appreciate that, and it's very true and very sincere. You know, if it wouldn't be for the fans, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So what an honor, what a pleasure to be able to be recognized still without a hockey mask. I've been through TSA, showing my ID, and had a TSA agent go, "Are you the guy that played Jason?" just because they knew my name. I've been at Universal Studios in North Hollywood, Burbank area, and walking through a store, and somebody looked at me and go, "You played Jason." You know what? What a sweet honor. Again, 30 years later. No, I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at. I'm very appreciative.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you said, you know, we asked if you want to play any other role. You said Jason, but are there any other horror icons you're interested in, like, you know, Michael, or even if, like, Frankenstein movies are planning to be rebooted? Are you interested in anything like that?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what my goal was back in the 80s when I played Hell Cop with Ben Stiller, Chad Lowe, and Christy Swanson. I knew with my physical structure that my best bet was to play horror figures, kind of like Lon Chaney, Boris Karloff. I always dreamed that there wasn't an agency that represented anybody of that magnitude, but I always thought it'd be cool to be able to say I played Leatherface, I played Jason, I played Michael Myers, I played Predator, whatever ones needed a full-size body or bodysuit. They'd call CJ because he could do the stunts. He's physically sound. He doesn't care if his face is on screen. He doesn't have to say anything. He just wants to contribute in a valuable way. I would have loved to be Darth Vader. I mean, to have that under your resume and that's all you did from a character actor perspective, however, just to be recognized because of those masks you wore, I think that would be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of you guys have that type of same agenda. Now, you want to go back into the industry. Do you plan on training stunts again? Just, you know, because your odds of getting a role then go up, especially, you know, if you're looking to play Jason or something like that.
I think it's more about the capabilities that I can. You know, I'm pretty good shape still. I like when Kane gives me a hard time at the last convention and compliments you by saying you're friggin' huge. That makes me feel good that I'm still doing it. When I hit the gym every other day, I'm still doing the bench. I'm still doing that. I mean, I think it's a good feeling to physically still be able to step into a role and do the stunt gags as necessary. However, I will tell you, if it's a gag that's out of my comfort zone, that's when you bring in, quote unquote, the Stunt Association, stunt man or woman that has the capabilities and the expertise. You're not going to catch me on a cross motor bicycle, and you're not going to see me flipping a car. So you'll see me jump out of an airplane. That's nothing new for me, or a chopper. You know, that's military bound. That doesn't bother me. But there are some things reasonably that I don't have the skill set to do, and I don't think some of us, including Kane, have some of those skill sets. You know, we're not deep sea scuba divers and those type of things, but there's still a lot of stuff we can participate in.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've one more legitimate last question for you. Now, you love acting. You love the idea of being on screen. Have you ever thought about being like directing or possibly writing or anything like that? Do you have a skill set in that area as well?
No, I mean, do I? I don't know the answer. I've never applied myself. But as you can tell, anything I've applied myself, I've been relatively successful. So I don't think I'd want to take on the responsibility with the lack of experience of understanding the backside of the camera and the lenses and how the POVs and things work. I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be glorified where I'd put my name on it. Now, most directors and others, writers, have learned by being what they call second unit directors, where they do all the pickups and smaller things. But again, you know, I'm wide open. I've got a good friend out there, Branscombe Richmond. I don't know if you remember him from Renegade.
Yes.
He's been on multiple series, including more recently Hawaii Five-0. He's working out of Kentucky right now in doing some Hallmark projects.
Mm-hmm.
And a good friend, known him for 30 years, he called me recently and asked me if they pick up some additional filming, would I be interested in doing some stuff in front of the camera? So I'm blessed. Kane, if he ever had something where he needed somebody to be in a project with him, I'm sure now that he knows I'm available and not working 6-7 days a week, I'm sure he'll reach out and give me a shout to see if I want to, get into a project with him.
Yeah, it's great. I'm so excited to see what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
To see you on the screen again would be fantastic. Whether that's as Jason or any other role. Thank you so much for joining us. This really was an absolute honor. Yeah, I mean, you have some very unique stories, and you're definitely one of the best Jasons that's ever been on screen. That's for sure.
No, don't tell Kane that, because he'll get upset, and then we got to go to therapy for 2 months with him, and doggone it, you got to kiss to listen. Just tell Kane what he wants to hear, and he'll feel better. But again, I'm very appreciative. There are, things that'll be looking out there. I've got some good shows coming up this year, including Germany. I've got Spooky Empire coming up, Mad Monster coming up. So I'm pretty excited about the conventions. And, my website, jason6.com, does quite well as far as those that can't make the shows to get those autographs. I do personalize them and mail them back to them, and I email them a photo of me signing their articles. So, and people do send me machetes to sign, and I send them back. And so it's been a good run. I'm very excited to be part of all this. So I do appreciate you taking your time out, and Nick, you too, to put me on the air, and the fans for listening to me.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure anyone that watches this show knows exactly who you are and loves to hear your stories. That's for sure.
Beautiful. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Another huge thanks to CJ Graham for joining us on this episode of Slash and Cast. It really was an honor and a privilege to hear these amazing stories firsthand from him.
Yeah, he really does have some excellent stories, and it's great to hear from such an inspirational man like him. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Of course, make sure you go check out our Facebook at facebook.com/RJLProductions and Twitter at twitter.com/RJL_productions. And if you really feel like staying involved, head over to our website at rjproductions.net. There you can join our email notification list. Type in your email, click notify me, and it's just like that. Then you'll get emails from me, personally. And this Friday, Crippling Commentaries is premiering on our Podbean at rjproductions.podbean.com, as well as on iTunes. There we are opening up a commentary on Scream. That's, it's something we've always wanted to do, commentaries. I wish I could just make a living of commentaries. Regardless, we're going to try. So this Friday, premiering on Podbean and on iTunes. Check it out. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.